Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of WMP Justice Review. Today, I have with me Craig Montgomery from USAC Incorporated. Craig is here to bring us up to date on the situation in South Africa. He's very adept and very connected with everybody in South Africa. So, Craig, it's good to have you here today. Tell us a little bit about the news in South Africa and what's going on.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so this week there's been extremely violent protests throughout South Africa. N2 landed up in a nightmare war between people trying to take land grabs, burning everything that they can get their hands on, trucks, stoning everybody. There's been a lot of xenophobia going on in Natal. There's been numerous farm attacks just since the 14th. Let me get my list here. On the 14th, there was an attack in Mpumalanga. A male was attacked by 6 guys. He managed to escape. 3 victims were attacked in Limpopo. 4 attackers again. 1 victim was shot. A lady managed to run away. On the 13th, there was another man and attacked as well. He was killed as well. The lady managed to get away as well. In KwaZulu-Natal, on the 10th, hijackings in a farm by 2 armed suspects. A victim was taken with the hijackers in the bucky. They demanded firearms and all kinds of stuff. And it goes on and all the way down to the 6th again. Shot through the window while he was sleeping. 23 sheep were stolen. And new suspects were found. The general consensus is that the crime rate in South Africa is gone absolutely out of control. Now that the police are going on strike tomorrow, they've been warned if they don't stay in their positions, they will be fired. 50% of the police are demanding to go on strike. The government's talking about bringing in the military to take over, and I'm kind of suspecting that all the violence and all over the country and demonstrations and burning of buildings and all of this is just part of a plan to bring in martial rule so that the elections will be postponed. Hopefully that's not the case, because it will cause unrest similar to what happened in Zimbabwe.
So, Craig, just to recap that, what you're saying is there is news that the police are planning to strike, and if that's the case, then the government will probably have no choice but to bring in their military, call out their military, and then declare martial law, and that will disrupt the upcoming May 8th election. Is that correct?
That's what I'm thinking will happen, but you got to realize the military is a joke. How much they can control is actually going to be laughable. The security forces, the security companies in South Africa are more apt to control this problem than what the army could do. Most of them are in their late 50s, overweight, and barely can hold a rifle for more than a half an hour. So I don't see that going to help the problem. I think most of the security companies that are in South Africa will be working 24/7, trying to control what's going to happen. That's my take on what's going to happen. The police will be on strike, but there are the loyalists that are there. They won't leave because they believe in their job more than the money, and they've been doing it for a long time, and they won't strike. The problem you have in South Africa right now is most of the police are inapt to do their jobs. So this is all just part of the normal thing. There has been dissension in the ranks because of promotions given to people that have never been through college or through the police colleges. and they're getting favoritism and being promoted to warrant officers and generals and lieutenants and above the old guys that have been there forever, who have done their time, built their reputations, know their jobs. And this has caused massive dissension in the ranks. And it's understandable because they feel that they've been railroaded into giving political, their political friends are giving these guys positions that they don't deserve.
So in the long haul of things, where do you see us, where do you see South Africa? What's the, if this actually happens, the police go on strike, the military is called out, martial law is declared, the election is postponed, 6 months from now, where does that leave South Africa?
In a dire strait, because the ANC will still be in power. And the problem with the ANC is they know they're going to lose the election. I actually see the DA winning, because even though they are, in my opinion, not 100% what we need and what is needed, but they're probably the biggest thing. This, even though the ANC is not going to win this election, and they know it, and the only way to keep control of the power and the corruption and all the other stuff that's going on is to declare martial law. There's also internal strife between Zuma's group and Ramaphosa himself, that there's talk of a coup d'etat inside of the ANC. So that alone is another problem too.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for joining today, and we are getting a questioning here by Tara Cushion. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can answer, Tara. Standby policing, reserve force, and community policing help on the strike days. So is there a group of people that will step in if the police go on strike?
Well, here's what the thing is, and on the N2 the other day, they brought in the Red Devils, and these were like a security company, and they basically controlled what the police couldn't do. So
okay,
the reserve forces that are out there, and the community policing and security companies are the ones that are actually getting involved to stop the crime. Because in the end, if the government has lost control, basically lost control, they're either letting this happen deliberately to declare martial law and control before the elections. And we have people like Andile and Masatama that's screaming that if we get kicked out of the elections, we're going to go to an armed struggle. That alone is I mean, the guy should have been arrested already.
Right, absolutely.
And so all of this incitement and violence is basically part of a big plan. Now, we all know that the EFF and the ANC are part of one and the same. We also believe that the BLF is the same. It's all part of one group. And we're all funded by each other, connected together, all part of one. It's all one part of one group. Hence, all the IEC claim, reports and complaints that were put in were ignored.
Okay, so
even in the violation of the Constitution and the IEC rules, they were just ignored.
All right, so you think if the election does take place, you just said something, you said you think the DA can take it. What is your basis for that? Do you have the demographics?
Not really, but I can tell you right now that most of what people I've been talking to, black people and whites, they not happy with the DA, but the better the devil you know than you don't know. I believe a lot of the Christian parties that are coming up from the bottom are getting massive support right now. People like ATM, ACO, COPE, a lot of these other ones that are coming up, they are going to take another part of the vote as well and put the ANC away. And the ANC knows now people are sick and tired of the corruption. You can't get stopped in a traffic thing without having to pay a bribe. You can't go to any government department without having to pay a bribe. There's not almost no department in the government where you don't pay a bribe. Even to the point of having to go for your driver's license 16 times and then 16 times before you have to pay the bribe to pass your driver's license. This is normal. Well, here's a problem with the human rights. I saw the comment up there, the human rights thing. The South African Human Rights Commission has ignored every single complaint that's been put out there. The Human Rights Organization in The Hague has recognized that there is a problem in South Africa.
So,
how far that's gone, we don't know.
Okay, so is that on purpose? Is the Human Rights Commission, is that on purpose? Are they staying out of this on purpose? And if so, why?
No, I find it ironic that every human rights organization in the world is kept quiet.
Okay.
It's just mind-blowing. The only person that actually has come up with human rights violations or anything is Donald Trump himself with the Wiesel law, the Eli Wiesel law, and stating that human rights prevention even, and basically saying that this needs to stop.
Okay. Tara is saying that there are policing, every municipal has a community of police volunteers that volunteer their lives for nothing. We were trying to get Sheldon Sternberg on here today. He is with one of those organizations. There was a problem with his device. We were unable to bring him into the feed today. We will be trying and try to hear from Sheldon another day. But he is one of those that is a part of a group that volunteers his time to help keep his area safe. Again, like Tara said, for nothing. I'm getting another question here, talking about Andili and Julius. So this all seems to be strategic, that Andili Maxatama and Julius Malema are just do whatever they want.
Let me put it to you all like this. So the initial problem started with land reform. This all started with land reform. The minute the government stated that there would be land reform where they would take land without compensation, it stirred up racial hate. And Julius Malema and Andile Masatama fed on it, literally fed on it, inciting all the uneducated freeloaders who don't have jobs. You got to realize, when you have a country that's in dire straits, in economic dire straits, which is South Africa is right now, it's a breeding ground for revolution. It's literally a breeding ground for revolution. You're feeding into the fact that let's blame somebody for the problem, but not you the problem. So to get a vote, they don't blame the government or whoever is involved in the communities or the community mayors or whatever, why the city has no water, or why the sewage is still running in the street, why the electricity is not working, why there's no money in the banks, why everything costs so much money, why gasoline is almost 40 times what it should be, and so on and so on and so on. And when you look at it, and then what do? You blame somebody. You don't want to blame the government because you don't want to upset somebody, because guess what? You might get in trouble with them. Somebody might just come visit you in the middle of the night, which is the normal story there, right? Who do they blame? They blame the white people. Well, for 25 years, the white people have not been in power. So who's to blame? If there's no new schools, no new roads, no new investments, no new stuff, you can't keep blaming until there's nothing left. Problem I have with Andile and Julius Malema is they belong to the ANC. They actually are the ANC. Everybody needs to face facts. That's who they are. They were funded and created by the ANC. So it's just part of a big plan in the end. Now, I believe that they funded them, they created them, and they became the red-headed stepchild.
Okay.
Because they started smelling power, and now they want the power for themselves. And it's backfired on the ANC because they've created this nightmare. And since that time of land reform being announced, the country went to hell. It literally went to hell overnight. Within 8 months, it has collapsed. Well, I would say 1 year. In 1 year, the whole country is starting to collapse because overnight, you're having these people that wake up in the morning and go around the neighborhood and say, come with me, let's go down to the freeway, start stoning things and stealing cars and breaking into stuff, and people are getting killed. And they even went into a school the other day and beat up a white teacher over nothing.
So, Craig, for the people of South Africa, I just want to say this, and I don't get involved in politics, not even here in my own country, but for the people of South Africa, if the ANC does allow this election to go forth and they stay in power, you know exactly what you're going to get. You've had it for 24 years, and if you want more of the same, then you vote for them. If you're tired of it, if you want your services restored, if you want your gasoline prices to go down, if you want new investments coming in, if you want, all of the property that's been destroyed to be rebuilt, then you're going to have to be the people that do something about it, and you're going to have to change it in the election by voting somebody else in. To go down the same path is nothing but more of the same. So, we're urging you to take back the power by going to the polls and making your vote count this year. Like Craig says, we believe that possibly the DA can take it. If you look at the regions, maybe they're not the ultimate solution, but they're better than more of the same of the last 24 years.
But here's what I'm saying. I, as you said, do not affiliate to any of these political parties. What I'm saying to you is that's the demographics of what I'm hearing. Okay. But there is other better parties out there. There's COPE, there's the ATM, there's all these others. They all emerging political parties that need education. They need support. They need experience to help them get up to that point and to understand the logics of free market systems, education, roads, clinics, all these things that if you build them, they will come. But if you don't build them and you put it in your pocket, it'll just collapse to sand. There's nothing there. You have to build to make it better. If you don't build, you fail. And that's exactly what's been going on for 24 years. Failure from day one. And I think once Nelson Mandela died, he was the only one holding it together. And once he died, all the people that he didn't want in there got into power and created this nightmare in the last 10 years.
So what do you want the people to do, Craig? What do you think is best for the people of South Africa right now?
I would say vote for free market capitalism. And you got to look at these parties for what they stand for. And I'm interviewing each one of these leaders over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to interview them. I'm going to ask them exactly what they're going to do. And you make an informed decision. I'm not saying I support any one of them, even though I'm interviewing them. I'm trying to interview Carter. I'm going to interview ACO. I'm going to interview the DA if I can. I'm going to interview all of them. And then they need to tell us what they want. They need to tell us how they're going to change this mess, how they're going to educate these children, how they're going to build schools, how they're going to put clinics up, roads, deal with all the corruption in the police and every single department in the government, and fix all the infrastructure that's collapsed, and do something about the electrical system. Because, for instance, they talk about mining. You cannot have a mine running for 2 hours a day. When you've got thousands of men underground, it takes days to get air down there. That air needs to be running 24/7. Those mines need to be running for 24/7. If they don't run 24/7, you shut that down. It means that all your industries are starting to collapse overnight. That means jobs, thousands and thousands of jobs get lost. Every factory that can't run more than 2 hours a day is pointless. You're losing people to work. Every man, woman, and child in South Africa that is of adult age that can work needs a job. They can't be running in the streets. In the end, he's going to get hungry. A hungry man is dangerous. He'll do anything to feed his children. He may not be a bad man, but the situation might put him in that position.
Okay. Craig, with all of the talk of ESCOM, let's talk about ESCOM for a little bit. Let's talk about ESCOM. Where are they at right now? How is the load shedding going on over there? Can you bring us up to date on that?
I'm getting conflicting reports. Some people say that the load shedding has stopped somewhat, and then other people are saying that it's going down again and again. My question is, how do you have an electrical system that's controlled by a single source? That's like holding all your eggs in one basket. That needs to change immediately.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be multiple sources of generated electricity, and it needs to be uncontrolled by the government. I find it ironic that a government-owned entity like ESCOM is now owned by private political families. It doesn't make sense. How did that happen? There's corruption. That's massive corruption. Mm-hmm. Also, they're trying to split it up into 3 different sections and sell it off in 3 different sections to whoever is going to invest into it or whatever. That is just absurd. Mm-hmm. It needs to be complete. I think that every single province in South Africa needs to have their own generated electricity, and it can be done with solar.
Okay. So
there's also amounts of coal there.
Okay. Can you address the question for us?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you something. United States, let me explain what Donald Trump is all about. You got to understand the United States is a huge, huge place. Just my state where I live, you could put the whole of South Africa in this state. Maybe more, a little bit more over. Maybe at this state, half of another state. And there's 52 of these states all over, 50 states in the United States, right? So now you got to understand this is massive. He's well aware of what's going on in South Africa. I believe me, he's well aware of what's going on in South Africa. He is watching the situation. Another thing too, Israel just kicked South Africa out of Israel completely. Mm-hmm. Israel is the head of all counterintelligence, counterterrorism for the world. What does that tell you? They're very connected to the the United States through counterterrorism and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. You got to realize who's in South Africa: Al Qaeda, Hamas, Iran, ISIS. They're all there. They got training bases there. We all know. The South African government's anti-Jewish. Who do you think controls the banks throughout the world? The Jews. So people have to realize what's going on. If you state with Trump is well aware of what's going on. There's Marines in Botswana. There's troops in South Africa, South American troops in South Africa. They have a small base there. There's also troops in Southwest Africa. There's also battle groups cruising up and down the coast. If it gets to that point where it's dangerous, it doesn't take more than 4 hours. A whole Marine group would be on the ground.
Okay, we're getting a comment here talking about the seats in Parliament. For the people that are watching that do not understand how that works, explain that process in South Africa. The number of votes depends on the number of seats in the parliament. Explain that to us, Craig.
Well, the demographics in South Africa is that 80% of the population is black.
Okay.
The rest is a split between the colored people, the whites, and the Indians or the Asians, right? So it could be even higher than 80%. So you got to look at who comes into it depends on how much you vote for. If you vote for, say, the Freedom Front, and they get the majority of votes, well, the majority of people that are going to be in parliament are going to be minorities. It depends on who you vote for. Now, in my opinion, it's not about putting in a white man or a black man or a colored man or an Indian man into parliament. It's what does policy stand for?
Exactly.
Get away from this race thing. We got to realize that a man that can bring together the country into a free market capitalist system that is inclusive of all, that is for everybody, that is anti-corrupt, that's the people you need to put in the government. And they must state that they do not want this BEE laws. They must state that there is no land reform. They must state that listen, 75% of the land, unused land in South Africa is owned by the government. That needs to be taken away. That needs to be distributed. That needs to be used. Instead of jamming all these people into townships, which they had 25 years to get them out, they didn't do that. These people are at a point of breaking. It needs to be resolved.
I agree. Let's see. So Anushka is saying that those votes make sure that chairs are won in parliament. That's a voice added. So, take that into consideration. We have a comment here by Sheldon Sternberg. And again, I apologize to everybody. We were unable to connect with Sheldon today to bring him into the feed. I'd like to have had Sheldon here to talk to Craig about, because Sheldon is on the grounds there in South Africa, but maybe another time we can arrange that. Race is created by government, not the people. What do you say to that, Craig?
I agree. Anybody that's spewing, if one black man gets killed, go kill white women and children and their pets. That's just bizarre. I mean, if you're still screaming after 25 years, one bullet, one Boer, listen, this is 21st century, knock it off. All right? It's deliberate. It's deliberate incitement of violence and racism. Okay. And apartheid was fought based on that same racism, and they're doing it again, and they're doing it by the blacks are doing it now on the whites and any minority, even talking about Indians and coloreds now, and it's now to the point where it needs to stop, because enough is enough. Enough is enough. Africa is not a color, and for 350 odd years. Everybody that is born in Africa is an African. Nobody can listen. If you want to all meet me in the international court in The Hague and prove that you own that land because you were there first, well, let's go, because you can't. The rhetoric is easy. I can also say anything I want on TV, and you will believe me. But if you're going to put it on paperwork, prove it. Come and meet me in the international court in The Hague, and we'll talk. And if you can prove otherwise, then I'll believe you. But otherwise, shut up right now. Every child that's born in South Africa, color, irrespective of color, is an African. Deal with it. Now, put your country together, bring free market capitalism in, fix the corruption, and get it on. And put these damn criminals in jail. And I agree with the ATM. Repeat offenders for murder, rape, and all that need to be hung. End of story, because they cannot be put back into society and reformed. I totally agree with him. And once that is done, you'll see the crime drop overnight. Now there is no consequences for crime. before I go, I would like to say one thing to all the farmers out there, please. And I've said this 1,000 times. Complacency breeds contempt. Okay? Your houses, paint all your windows black. Paint them all black. They can't see you through the window. They think the house is dark. They don't know you what's going on. Do not just walk outside because you heard a noise. You know they're outside. You know they're outside. Do not just walk outside. You're just walking into trouble. Do not trust anything. Do not trust anybody that's strange on your farms. And if you see them there, ask your locals and speak to your farm workers. They know what's going on. They've seen these guys. Somebody sees them coming. They're planning. They know you're there. These things need to be sorted out. The problem with nobody arresting these criminals, the police are not interested in doing their jobs. They're not even interested in taking cases. They won't even write the case up. They can't even take fingerprints because they failed to pay the fingerprint companies that can do the fingerprints. So they've lost all the evidence before it even starts, and there's no evidence to prove that the guy did it because they can't even take fingerprints. The guys are not even trained. The whole policing system in South Africa, most of it's a joke. Okay? It used to be one of the best police forces in the world. It's now a joke. When you go into a police station, they laugh at you if you're white or a minority. They don't want to help you. That needs to stop. But you got to realize you need new government. You need a complete revamp of the government. You need a complete revamp of the police. It will take time. You've got a chance right now to vote these people out completely. Vote them out. That's your power. Imagine a plank on a T2. You know, like what do you call a T-daughter? What do you call it?
Teeter-totter.
A teeter-totter. And here's the cliff, right? And there's the politician, and all the people are standing over here, and everyone steps off. What happens to this guy? He goes over. Hello. So it's power. It's people. You are the power. That's why they say we the people.
Now, I agree with the comment up on the screen right now. If you can see it, we dare not bring back the death sentence as long as we have the current government in power. And I think you're right. I think that, if the farmers are defending themselves and they're arrested for defending themselves, and then you have the death penalty, then it's even a worse situation happening. So I agree with that.
I put it like this. I would make the death sentence if anybody attacks a farm. You're actually signing the death warrant of the whole country because you're killing the food supply.
Mm-hmm. The government is law on firearms to apply. You can't tell them it's for self-defense anymore.
That's BS because that's exactly what it is. People are buying weapons for self-defense. They're not buying it for target shooting. Why would you buy a weapon anyway? As far as I'm concerned, that's just the old communist way. It's what the Russians did in their revolution. They took all the weapons away from everybody and then murdered about 10 million people. More people were murdered in Russia that way than in Germany doing the Jews. And China did exactly the same thing. They killed even more people. They took all their weapons away and killed half of them to keep them in line. And this is just the normal, take the weapons away and people die. Look what happened in Cuba. Same thing happened. Take it away and control the people. If a man in America today, almost every single family in America has 3 weapons in their house. No country in the world will ever be stupid enough to come and try and invade this place because grandma will shoot you with a shotgun. The kids will shoot you. Every kid that's 9 years old knows how to use a weapon. There's probably 2,000 weapons just in my town. And everybody has weapons. So nobody's coming here to mess around. So the same thing would happen in South Africa. If you wouldn't be rich, nobody would be coming to your houses. They realize that they would be in trouble. Exactly. They think that, yeah, I've heard that story too. They think that food just comes from Checkers. Just go down to the supermarket. That's ignorant. They don't know how to farm. They don't understand. And look at Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe right now, they're eating rats in the street. They've got selling rat meat. So
that's terrible.
You don't want to go there. And I tell you what, if they start taking these farms out and start putting them farms to thorns again, the country won't last more than 5 years. This has to stop. And that's why I'm telling you guys, you are the power. Vote these people out. Vote them out. Even the own members of the ANC are now crossing the lines into COPE, into ATM, into all of these other places, because they're sick of it. They see what's happening and they realize it's wrong. And they're just too scared to say anything because they will be a victim of crime, so-called crime.
Mm-hmm.
All these farmers that they say, all these farm attacks that they say are just crime, because it's individual farms that they're attacking. No, it's systematic. They take the vehicle, they dump the vehicle. If they were going to steal it, they would steal the vehicle. They only take in certain things, weapons. Most of the time they leave all the stuff they steal. It's just part of the game to say, hey, we robbed you. No, this is systematic. They want you off the land because legally they cannot do it otherwise. And once you're off the land, they can take the land by saying it's not being used. What is happening right now is a human rights violation. All the things that you are hearing is human rights violations. The land reform is human rights violations. The BEE laws are human rights violations. All of these are human rights violations.
If the authorities will not declare them human rights violation and step in and help out, what is the answer, Craig?
My problem that I'm scared of, it's going to get to a point where the uneducated that are, how can I put this? The uneducated, they do not understand the system of government and they do not realize that they are being used, will cross a line. One of those politicians will incite something that will crack, and sooner or later, they're going to make a mistake. They're going to go into a school, they're going to go into a old age home, they're going to go into somewhere and start killing a bunch of people, thinking that they have the right because the government's told them that it's okay, and it's going to cause a civil war. And once that civil war takes place, you will have the international communities come in and put an interim government, take over and put an interim government in there, and all these politicians will be arrested. That's what I predict will happen.
Okay.
Before we get to that point, they will not see us until we get to this. And I'm saying to this, I'm hoping this never happens. Because not one family in that country will not be affected, black or white. Many, many people will die over stupidity of politicians. You got to realize most of the people in South Africa are uninformed. They're uninformed. They listen to the radio, they listen to the news, they're hearing the rhetoric, they're not listening to outside of the country. And until you go outside of the country and see what the real world is all about, they don't understand. So in the small environment that they're living in, this is normal. I grew up there, and for the last 50 years, this has been happening for more than 50 years. The exact same thing every day. Rioting, burning, stealing, killing, and it never stops because nobody's ever taken effort to stop it. Put into some place, put into laws into place, put into a real sustainable, positive, forward-moving development. They've left it to rot, and it just becomes the norm. Well, that's the norm. Go to America. Nobody walks down the street with a gun on their hand. We don't need to. The problem is, just now somebody's going to take this rioting and all this stuff that's going on And believe me, tomorrow may be a problem because the police are going to be on strike. And then it creates an opportunity for stupidity.
Well, there seems to be plenty of opportunities for that over there right now. But, you know, this is the question that I get asked the most from people that I'm still communicating with from South Africa. When are other nations, when are other organizations going to step in? Do you have an answer for us?
We have given them all the information constantly. It gets sent to them every day from agencies, from intelligence sources. I send it in to all my connections, and it goes up the chain. They're well aware. They get reports every day. Listen, that embassy in Pretoria is not stupid. They all around. We have satellites listening. Listen, all I can tell you is they're not stupid. They know what's going on. They know what's going on. They're hoping that this election will sort the problem out. If it doesn't, it's just, I can't tell you. Right now, there's a delegation that just went to the White House, or that's here with the AfriForum, and they went and saw a whole delegation of United States senators and stuff, and explained to them what's going on. Everybody's aware. Everybody's aware. And we cannot afford to have South Africa collapse, because it will cause a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions for no food. If the food supply in Africa is cut off down in South Africa, the whole of Africa is dependent on that food. You can't afford it to happen.
I agree. Sheldon is giving us a suggestion, and we urge you to get with your community resources and see how you can help become a part of the solution. And if everybody does that, there's always some little something that everybody can do. So yes, we applaud you for that, Sheldon. People need to connect. They need to unite. What Tara said earlier, by uniting, you do take back some power. You do have some control over the situation. What else can people do right now, Craig, to stay safe during this time of turmoil in South Africa?
I'm going to tell everybody, black and white, talk to each other. Don't let these people burn you by feeding you racism. Talk to each other. You were all born under an African sun. It doesn't matter how you like it or not. You're all Africans, and you're going to have to deal with the fact that you live together. Find a way and unite. A lot of the traditional blacks, they don't want what's going on either. They absolutely hate what's going on. To them, their old traditional ways is a straightforward, humble, Christian ways. They have their traditional ways. They don't want this either. And there's thousands and thousands of white people, Indians, coloreds, and black people that do not want this. What's happened is people like Zuma and company got in power, and you got to realize there's only like maybe 200 people in government that are causing all of this problem, because they control the media, they control the military, they control the financing system, they control everything. We have to find a way to unite. For 25 years, apartheid's gone. Yes, there were disparities between whites and blacks that could have been resolved in the last 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
People are just doing this to incite racism. And how do they do this to control you? They conquer and divide.
Absolutely.
So what they do is they tell black people to hate white people to hate black people, Indians to hate blacks, whites, and coloreds, and so on, until you're all hating each other and not seeing the big picture. The big picture is you all want to take your kids to school and get an education. You all want a job. You all want a good education and a job. You all want to have a car, and you all want to have a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody does do something else, you want to be able to trust the police when they come to your house and do their job. And hopefully they start building decent roads, decent schools, decent clinics, that your life is much, much better. And the food that you go and get in the supermarket is of 100% grade, that's A grade food, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all anybody ever wants. So forget the racism, unite and become one country under one sun, and make this happen. And get investors to come to South Africa, like Europe and like the United States, and build factories and build infrastructure and help you get decent electricity and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, Craig, before we sign off today, I do want to announce that Craig has agreed to be the official correspondent for the WMP Justice Review on the South Africa issue. We are introducing the correspondents for our social media coverage of the different topics that we are covering. The other day I announced Jax West was covering the social media for our wrongful conviction cases. Craig is covering the South Africa cases, and we're working with a lot of people. So you're going to be hearing more from Craig right here on this channel. He can be interviewing other people on this channel, talking with other people to keep you up to date on what is going on in South Africa. Any final words, Craig?
Yeah, to the farmers, guys, don't be complacent. Don't just go outside. Call for help. Doesn't matter if it's just a false alarm. Just paint all your windows black. If you hear a noise outside, send the dogs out first. Don't go outside. You're going to get shot. Just be aware. I know you're living in fear. You're stressed out to the point of no return. But to save your lives right now. Also, if you can, go to the squatter camps. Find somebody that is willing to work on your farms and put them around you. The more people around your farms, the less likely you're going to be attacked. Okay, I'm out of here.
All right. Thanks for joining us today, Craig, and we'll have you back again soon. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and you can continue to comment. Craig will be answering your comments right here on this feed.